What's up YouTube, Mr. Llama here, and today I want to talk to you guys about how I'm going to be recapping and moving along with this ZOD challenge run that many of you have seen and maybe many of you have not seen. So essentially what I'm doing is I am trying to build up to a ZOD rune solo self-found in single player from nothing on an assassin. I chose an assassin because chat didn't want a sorceress, didn't want a hammered in, and I thought I want a character that can kill P8 in a lot of areas, so I do have some variety. I can spend some time in the cows, I can then move over to the Travancore, I can do the Ubers, I can do terror zones, I can really bounce around if I feel like it, so I'm not just being bored only doing Travancore as a barbarian, or only doing, the pits as my Blizzard Sorcerer, whatever it is, along the way. Of course, chat said they didn't want Sorceress, now with Sunder Charm she can really be anywhere, but I felt like, hey, get a nice character to move around and do all of that. And we ended up doing a mosaic character. And so I'm going to show you guys what that mosaic character looks like. Then I'm going to show you the spreadsheets that I'm using and what I'll be recapping. And then I'll kind of close it all out. This is all going to be used for the recap videos that I'll try and do kind of daily. So my daily thought will be I'll intro, I'll talk about the day a little bit, I'll show clips from the day, I'll show the Rune Luck from the day and all of the finds, and then we'll just kind of like conclude from that. And I think that'll be kind of a fun way to summarize everything that's happened in the day for everyone watching. So with that being said, enjoy a look at the character, enjoy a look at the spreadsheet. I think the Rune Luck portion of the spreadsheet is really cool and just a tool that a lot of people will actually end up using in the future, and I'll try and build out a better place for it. But yeah, enjoy. Okay, so this right here is a good look at my current character. We'll go ahead and start with the stats and skills of the character, and then we'll kind of move into the gear from there. So stats-wise, we're running medium, 95 base strength with a little extra from gear, 105 base dex with some extra from gear. I haven't really respec'd this character. She's level 93, and I respec'd her when I shifted over into using Mosaic Claws, but since then I haven't, so I've found things like Torch and other stuff to add stats along the way. But basically this was all to use the claws that I had, and of course rest into Vitality. For skills, we're running nothing there, that's just from a weapon. We're basically running 1 point in all of these. I think I have 3 points here in burst of speed, just to have a little bit more burst of speed. And then, of course, in martial arts, we have Max Phoenix, Max Blades, Max Claws of Thunder as our main 3, 1 point in all the rest. And then for the remaining points, I was kind of trying to decide, oh, and of course, Max Dragon Talon. And for the remaining, I was trying to decide if I wanted Max Tiger Strike or Max Cobra Strike. If you go Max Fist of Fire, you get this nice added fire damage, which can be fun, but when your fire damage gets too high from this, you actually convert too much of your physical damage over, and you lose the ability to get any regen from Cobra Strike. So of course, I wanted to keep that low so I can sometimes use Fist of Fire for a little added fire damage, while still being able to regen from Cobra Strike. So then I was deciding between Cobra Strike and Tiger Strike, and I figured I like Tiger Strike overall to just get some extra physical in there. So that is the character's stats and skills. In terms of items, this is kind of where we're at and where we were. So I started and I kind of found some items like this, just some faster run walk and some all res, which was nice. I was using, just kind of whatever dual res rings. This one had some nice strength on it. So these two were both strength rings I could use early on with some res. I found a High Lords recently. I had Guillaume's Face. We had Taurashas. I found a string of ears. We found Gore Riders. So just kind of some basics there. We had a lot of charms of just random lifers and magic find. So just combinations of that. And I've shifted those out over time here to just kind of improve and use the better ones. You can see we've got some really nice charms like 1710 right there. We got a Shimmering Small Charm, 5 all res. We got a 14 all res Grand Charm, right? Shimmering Grand Charm there as well. So some nice things to kind of help out the character. In terms of gear I'm actually wearing, of course, we have our dual mosaics. This one rolled 10, 10, 9. It is a +2 Claws of Thunder, and this one's 2 Claws of Thunder as well, but it rolled 14, 14, 12, so pretty decent rolls for both of those. I have a 3 to martial arts assassin amulet. I was also using a Seraph's before for the +2 to skills. I have hustle. I also have treachery, but I really love the 65 faster run walk from this. And then, of course, the 40 IAS actually is godly because that just gives us so much attack speed that we don't need to worry about attack speed anywhere else, actually. So I could even go and change these gloves out to just like +3 zeros. I wouldn't even need the 20 IAS on them. I could just get some like 3 martial arts gloves somewhere else. But these are gloves I've used. Here's a nice dual res ring. Here's another dual res ring. So really trying to stack up resistances. That's something that this character can struggle with, especially, and you can see I got 3 perfect sunders, 1 for each of those, so that's really nice. But especially if you start to use your cold and light sunders, that can be a big factor, as your resistances can be pretty low. And then we have some nice Natty's boots that we've upgraded for extra physical damage. And of course, lastly, we have Dungos right here. So I was using String of Ears, but we found this. The extra vitality and hit recovery is really nice. And then, of course, we found a Shaco. This was very recent. So I was actually using this. Then I was using a +2 to assassin skills, like 38 life helm. And then, of course, we found Shaco yesterday. And so that was a nice upgrade that I've been waiting for. Other than that, we just have our teleport charges on our tele staff. We have an 1812 Amazon torch, an 1114 Paladin, and a 1410 Necro Torch. So this character still has yet to get her Assassin Torch. We do have 2 hate keys, 3 T keys. So we may go and try another torch here pretty soon. But I kind of wanted to get into just the rune hunting if we could. In terms of current runes that we own, this is it. So you can kind of break it down in the way of like the top row is the basic runes. I have to replenish some of those because I used them for rune words. Then the next 3 rows are kind of being used for your like middle runes, low to mid. Then the next 3 rows are being used for your truly middle runes with your Ios and Lums and Kos, Fals, Lems. And then the bottom is being used for kind of anything that's like medium high to a high rune. So Pols, Ums, Malsis, Gols, Ohms, Ja. We have actually found a decent number of Pols and Ums, I would say, and Lems and Fals and Kos. And so a lot of what you're seeing in like this, the Gol, Ist, Mal, a lot of this actually came from just like mass cubing up Lems, which is pretty funny. I didn't think there would be as much cubing down in this section, but I've been picking up a lot of like Lums and Kos and Fals and Lems and all that. And that's just worked really nicely to cube us into Pols, to cube with the other Pols, to make Ums, to make the Mals, to make the Ist, to make the Gol. So I don't think I've cubed up beyond Gol rune yet. That is the highest rune I've cubed to. But of course you can see we have Gol for this, Mal Gol Am, Gol for this, Mal Gol Am. And I believe I've only found 1 Gol rune, maybe 2. I think I've found 2 Gol runes and I've cubed all the way to 2 Gol runes as well. So like half of these that I've used or found have been cubed to, which is pretty interesting and pretty fun. But still, of course, that is all not a lot of value in terms of an overall ZOD rune, which is its own piece. So that is my gear and stats and skills. And yeah, we're just building up slowly as we build our runes. So one of the main reasons I'm really excited about this challenge is because of the spreadsheets in Excel that we've been working with to create these numbers and then generate a Rune Luck value. So myself, Pavkey, and one of my mods, Binary Azeotrope, have been working to try and figure out the best way to generate what is Rune Luck and what is this challenge looking like overall and how does it vary day by day and just kind of, like I say, overall is the challenge. So the first piece we can look at right here is the Rune Sheet. This is a look at what the challenge is and our progress so far. So originally this challenge was just find level 1 starting naked until I get up to a ZOD rune worth of value, or I have a ZOD rune in my inventory, whether it drops naturally or I cube all the way up to it, which cubing up to it is probably the more likely to happen, but you never know. You can just drop a ZOD. And so we've been able to kind of, just slowly grow our runes right there. Eventually chat said, hey, we want to be able to make you drop runes. And so, of course, that became a thing that joined in, and you have all of the rune protectors and killers over here. If you protect a rune, it goes into the green slot. It cannot be dropped by chat. If you drop a rune, obviously it goes in the red, and I lose that rune. So it can be pretty brutal. But this is a very interesting sheet just in general because it gives you the idea of what is a ZOD in terms of other runes. For instance, fraction of a ZOD. An L rune is 14 trillion, 281 billion, etc. L runes. That is how many L runes it takes to make a single ZOD rune. So the numbers, of course, are absolutely insane. And this isn't even counting all of the gems that you would need once you, of course, get down to the Thol and you start needing chipped topaz and then chipped amethyst and then chipped sapphires and etc. all the way down, right? Everything from Thol down to Cham there will require a gem as well in its cubing. And so you can really see just how little value there is for percent of a ZOD that you have in these higher up runes. So of course these runes are good for using, finding rune roots and all that stuff. But many people as they've come in have been like, why aren't you picking up all the tier runes and Neph runes that are dropping? And it's like, because I'm not going to cube 528 billion Neph runes. I literally would die before I got through cubing just the Neph runes to the Eth runes, let alone anything further from there. So the scale is very interesting. Just to look at, right? And the ZOD contribution percent. And it's even interesting when you get down to stuff like Pol rune, right? Pol and and Mal and Is. These are like pretty decent runes that you're finding, but 2,048 runes just to make a ZOD rune, 1,024 Mal runes just to make a ZOD rune. So finding even in these sections is rough in terms of the percentage that you're actually getting towards ZOD, and really that main percentage is coming from these bottom like 4, 5, 6 runes in terms of what is actually a contribution percent. So Sur rune you can see is 6.25% of a ZOD, Jaw is 25% of a ZOD. So those main bottom ones have a lot of value, but it still doesn't take away from things like, hey, if you find 2 runes like I have, that's 3.125%. when you combine them together, and that's not bad, right? And you can cube those together, make a low, maybe you find a low rune, cube those two together, make a Sur, you find the ones that, right? There's a lot that can still be done with all of the cubing, and so it is still fun collecting and picking up all these runes down in these sections, but it does put kind of some... You have to think about where you're farming and how you're doing this challenge, because if you're saying, I'm just going to farm like Countess, well, Istrun is her highest special drop. She can drop up to a low rune, but that's a 1 in like 44,000 chance. 42,000, something around there. And so, yeah, you can get Istruns every few hundred runs from her, but you need 512 of those, and that will end up taking a long time. So this is the base rune sheet, and you can see this is our current total percentage of ZOD. We're 29.8% of the way done. And this is the amount that chat has deleted, 6.4%. A majority of that was El Diablo coming in and wrecking that Sur rune, which was absolutely brutal. Otherwise, Iglandier's killed a Mal rune, El Diablo's killed 2 Pol runes, Iglandier and Steven have killed some Lem runes, and etc. all the way up, just people kind of being cheeky and attacking the runes. Now, what is the actual really exciting piece of this sheet? I think this is a fun way to track it. But the really exciting piece of this sheet is the Rune Luck section of the sheet. I think this is where all of the fun, or most of the fun, is really coming in. I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of that and move that there. I think this is where things are really starting to get fun. So After a lot of thought and trial and error of how are we going to create Rune Luck and what does Rune Luck entail, this is what we've ended up on. And I'll even talk a little bit about the previous piece. So previously, I was using a probability of finding ZOD rune versus, not finding ZOD rune and not finding certain runes, and then kind of adding those probabilities together and figuring out what was the expected rune value. So you could say, all right, every time a rune drops, there is a 1 in, it's not on the sheet. That's fine. Every time a rune drops, there's a 1 in 5,171 chance. Actually, it's over on this one. That it will be ZOD. So each rune chance you can look at right here. There's a 1 in 1981 chance it's Cham, 1 in 1321 chance it's Jaw. Now this is a rune that is dropping from an area that of course can drop up to ZOD rune. So the cows or the Chaos Sanctuary or the River of Flame or the pits or any of those areas. If you do drop it back to somewhere like the Travancore and stuff that can only drop up to Cham rune, the odds will be still very similar, but of course you just do not have this 1 in 5,171 chance to drop a ZOD. So it will just start at the treasure class runes 16 and then start to go down from there. If you need more information on how all of that works, there's a lot of resources for runes and treasure classes and how runes drop that exist, and maybe I'll make a video on that as well. But regardless, these are kind of your drop odds when you get a rune to drop from there. So I was kind of taking the fractions of all of those pieces and saying, okay, if I drop, 200 runes or 150 runes in the day, that gives me, 0.003% of a ZOD. That's like, or 0.0, whatever it is, I have 0.003 of a ZOD because that's the odds, or I have 0.02 of a ZOD because that's the odds for that number. And then I would take the value from that. And unfortunately, the problem was because these bottom runes were so much weight of what a ZOD was, that it gave the expected value to be way too high. And it was really hard to figure out what is the actual average and expected value for Rune Luck to determine am I lucky today or not, because you're either always under or you find Burr plus and then you're always over. And that was essentially it. You never were going to be average. You would always be way under until you found one of these top runes. So instead, what we did is create simulations of 100,000 rune drops for every set of runes, and then created a value from there. This actually will need to be adjusted because I don't think we have a 425 rune set, but we can add one. But basically from every rune drop from like 10 to 200, we have a sample that MATLAB ran 100,000 simulations of it. And then we take the mean of that, the standard deviation, and then we're using log to make it just like a little bit cleaner and brought together better. And this gives us a really, really solid expectation for what you're going to have on a day-to-day basis. So for instance, let's take the 27th. And let's go here and go and insert, paste values only. And this gives you an example. All right, this is the 28th percentile. I found the equivalent of an rune. So this sums up all the values of today's runes as I input them. You can see the runes over here. I basically keep track of every rune that dropped. I found 78 overall. And the expectation based on 100,000 simulations is I would find the equivalent of an ist rune at this time. So it's really kind of fun and interesting in that this just gives you that calculator. And then you can say, oh, I found a Vex that rune actually. And that'll go to 79, right? And now this would put me in the 62nd percentile because of Vex is, I still have the expectation of only having found an ist, but our highest equivalent is the Vex and all of that. So it's really cool. I really love just how it works, and you can see basically every single way as you add your runes in, whether you're lucky or unlucky for the day, and then what percentile you end up in overall, just to give you kind of a good, understanding of, hey, today was really unlucky, so that's totally fine. Hit it tomorrow, I'll get really lucky. Or, oh wow, this is a really lucky day. Now, obviously, a lot of days that have big high runes are generally going to be on the luckier side, but there can still be plenty of days where, the equivalent rune at the mean, if we're going right down the middle for this many drops, is an ist rune. So there's going to be many days where I find mal pole, and that's about equivalent to an ist, and that puts me about right there in that percentile. Or I do find, 5 poles and an or I find whatever. But of course, then days, hey, you find the Vex, that puts you in the 60th or whatever. So, like I say, I think it's a really cool tool. I think it's cool to have the simulations run and then kind of compare against those simulations and just have fun and enjoy it. So this is the Rune Luck calculator, and I would love to take this calculator and build it into somewhere on like a web page, maybe put it on Icy Veins or something, so you can go in, input your runes for the day, and see, am I unlucky or is this expected, right? I found 45 runes and the highest I got was a pole rune, and you can input it in and it goes, oh yeah, that's actually pretty expected. So it's not really that unlucky of a day. But there's other times, like one of these days that was just horribly unlucky, and that's just how it goes. Some days you have lucky days, some days you have unlucky days. But regardless, I hope that this tool is fun and interesting and you guys enjoy it. And I'm going to try and use this in my recap videos to kind of give a summary of the day. So that's all that we have for today. I hope that was exciting. You enjoyed the character and the spreadsheets and kind of the breakdown. Again, this isn't the action-packed day showing all the clips of finding the runes and such, but hopefully this does give you an idea of what the ZOD Challenge will be and the breakdowns that are to come. With that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace, everybody.